It was a Tuesday evening in late October. I had just finished a grueling 12-hour surgery, a spinal reconstruction that had tested every skill I developed over 15 years as a surgeon at Boston Memorial. All I wanted was to come home to Olivia, maybe share a glass of wine, and feel that comfort that had sustained me through the hardest days of my medical career. But when I walked through the door of our Beacon Hill brownstone, the house felt different, colder somehow. Olivia was sitting on our Italian leather sofa, scrolling through her phone with such intensity that she didn't even look up when I entered. "Hey," I said, loosening my tie. "Tough day?" She startled slightly, as if I'd interrupted something important. Her auburn hair was perfectly styled as always, not a strand out of place even at 8 p.m. That was Olivia immaculate, polished, the perfect doctor's wife who chaired 3 charity boards and never appeared in public without looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. "Oh, Ryan, I didn't hear you come in." She quickly locked her phone screen. The Winters Foundation gala playing meeting ran late. I nodded, too exhausted to question why her meeting required such secretive texting. That was the first night. I noticed, but soon the signs multiplied like malignant cells under a microscope. The late nights became more frequent. The way she angled her phone away when I entered a room. The sudden password changes on her devices. The mysterious weekend charity retreats that seemed to have no online presence when I searched for them later. For 2 months, I tried to convince myself I was imagining things. After all, we had built what I thought was a perfect life together. Respected surgeon and the beautiful socialite wife, the power couple of Boston's medical charity circuit. We had a beautiful home, influential friends, and plans to start a family once I made department head next year. But then came the night I couldn't ignore it anymore. Olivia had fallen asleep in the guest room after claiming a migraine. Her phone kept buzzing with notifications. 1, 2, 3 messages in rapid succession at 1 a.m. Who messages a charity administrator with migraines at that hour? I stood in the doorway, watching her sleep. Her face, relaxed in slumber, still took my breath away. Those high cheekbones, the delicate curve of her lips, the long eyelashes that framed her emerald eyes when they were open. For a moment, I almost walked away, but something pushed me forward. Call it intuition or self-preservation. I picked up her phone, and to my surprise, it opened without a password. She must have disabled it before falling asleep. The messages were from Nathan W. I recognized the name immediately. Nathan Whitman, the financial director at the Winters Foundation, where Olivia volunteered. A divorced man with a reputation for expensive tastes and wandering eyes. "Missing you already. Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you tomorrow while the good doctor is saving lives. You're right. What he doesn't know won't hurt him." Each word felt like a scalpel cutting into my chest. I scrolled up, finding weeks of messages, each more intimate than the last. Photos I couldn't unsee. Plans made while I was in surgery. Hotel receipts. Inside jokes about me, about my dedication to my patients, about my naivety. I put the phone down exactly as I'd found it and walked to our bedroom. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past few months, recontextualizing every late night, every distracted conversation, every time she'd pulled away from my touch. The next morning, I called the hospital and took my first sick day in 5 years. Then I waited for Olivia to wake up, rehearsing what I would say when I confronted the woman I loved about her betrayal. Olivia emerged from the guest room around 9 a.m., her silk robe wrapped tightly around her slender frame. She froze when she saw me sitting at our kitchen island, still in yesterday's clothes, a cold cup of coffee between my hands. "Ryan, why aren't you at the hospital?" Her voice carried that perfect blend of concern and authority she'd mastered over the years. Those emerald eyes I once thought could never lie to me widened slightly. "I think we need to talk, Olivia." My voice was steadier than I expected. She poured herself coffee with practiced elegance. "About what?" "I have a foundation meeting at 11. With Nathan Whitman?" I watched her carefully, noting how her hand paused momentarily before resuming. "It's task. Yes, actually. We're finalizing the winter fundraiser budget." She took a sip, her expression neutral. "Why do you ask?" I placed her phone on the counter between us. "Your phone was buzzing all night." I checked to make sure it wasn't an emergency. The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. Years of Boston society events had taught her how to maintain composure under pressure. "You went through my phone?" "That's a violation of my privacy, Ryan." "Is that really what you want to focus on right now? Not the fact that you've been sleeping with Nathan for months?" She set down her cup with deliberate care. "I see. Not denial. Not tears. Not even anger. Just I see." As if I'd commented on the weather. "That's all you have to say?" I could feel my composure cracking. 3 years of marriage, and all you can say is "I see"? Olivia sighed, running a hand through her auburn hair. "What do you want me to say, Ryan? That I'm sorry? Would that make a difference? Are you sorry?" I asked, hope stupidly flickering in my chest. "I'm sorry you found out this way." She leaned against the counter, studying me with clinical detachment. "But these things happen in marriages, especially when one partner is barely present." "Barely present?" "I've built my entire life around us, around our future." "No, Ryan, you built your life around that hospital, around your patients. I'm just the accessory you come home to when you remember I exist." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "So this is my fault? I worked to give us this life, and that justifies betraying me." "It's not about fault, it's about needs. Mine weren't being met." She spoke as if explaining something simple to a child. "Nathan understands the world I live in, the social obligations, the appearances we need to maintain. I want to fix this," I said, desperation creeping into my voice. "We could try therapy. I could adjust my schedule." That's when she said it. The words that would change everything. "Feelings don't matter, Ryan. This is just a phase you're going through. You'll get over it because you need to. We have positions to maintain, appearances to keep up." She checked her watch. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get ready for my meeting." I stood there, stunned, as she walked past me toward our bedroom. No remorse, no recognition of the pain she'd caused. Just cold, calculated indifference. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. I scheduled sessions with a marriage counselor. Olivia attended exactly one, spending most of the hour checking her watch and offering non-committal responses. When the therapist suggested she end her relationship with Nathan, Olivia simply smiled and said, "That's not practical at this time." I tried everything, leaving early from work, planning special dinners, even suggesting a second honeymoon. Each attempt was met with the same polite disinterest. Meanwhile, her affair continued. She didn't even try to hide it anymore, just became more careful with her phone. One night, as I lay awake in our bed while Olivia slept soundly beside me, I realized a fundamental truth. You cannot save a marriage alone, and you cannot make someone care about your feelings. When they've decided feelings don't matter, that's when I made my decision. If Olivia could be coldly practical about our marriage, I could be equally practical about its end. The next morning, I contacted a headhunter I knew and asked about positions on the West Coast. By the end of the week, I had a preliminary offer. From Seattle Grace Hospital, a prestigious position heading their trauma surgery department. I accepted the interview, telling Olivia it was a medical conference. She didn't ask questions. She didn't care enough to. Seattle felt like freedom. During my 3-day conference, I secured the position, found a modest apartment overlooking Puget Sound, and met with my future colleagues. For the first time in months, I could breathe without the weight of betrayal. Crushing my chest upon returning to Boston, I initiated what I called Operation Exodus, a methodical plan executed with the same precision I used in the operating room. First came the legal preparations. I consulted a divorce attorney who specialized in high-profile separations, explaining my situation and my desire for a clean break. "Your wife's infidelity gives you leverage," the attorney explained. "But if you want this to be quick and relatively painless, we need to be strategic." Strategic meant careful. I opened a separate bank account in Seattle, transferred half our joint assets, no more, no less. I didn't want Olivia's money. I just wanted out. The hardest part was maintaining the facade at home. I continued performing the role of the dutiful, if somewhat wounded, husband. I stopped bringing up therapy, stopped asking where she'd been. Olivia interpreted this as acceptance, even victory. "I'm glad you're being reasonable about all this," she said one evening as we prepared for a hospital fundraiser. She looked stunning in her midnight blue gown, her auburn hair cascading over bare shoulders. For a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with her. Her confidence, her poise, the way she commanded attention in any room. "Life goes on," I replied, adjusting my tie in the mirror. "We all make choices." She smiled, satisfied with what she perceived as my surrender. "Exactly. Now, remember the Andersons will be there tonight. Jessica's husband is on the hospital board, so be extra charming." I nodded, thinking how strange it was that she still cared about my networking on behalf of a career I would soon abandon. The next 3 weeks were a careful dance of preparation. I had my essential belongings shipped to Seattle in unmarked boxes, secured my medical license transfer, finalized my contract, all while performing surgeries, attending meetings, and playing the role of Boston's premier surgical couple with Olivia at various social functions that no one suspected a thing. Not my colleagues, not our friends, and certainly not Olivia, who was too absorbed in her affair and social calendar to notice the subtle changes. The way I'd stopped buying new things for the house. How I'd begun giving away books I wouldn't take with me. The long phone calls I made from my office at the hospital. 2 days before my planned departure, I had dinner with my closest friend at the hospital, Dr. James Chun. "Something's different about you," he observed, studying me over his glass of Scotch. "You seem lighter somehow." I considered telling him everything but decided against it. James was terrible at keeping secrets, and I couldn't risk Olivia finding out before I was ready. "Just focused on a new research project," I lied. The night before I left, Olivia informed me she would be attending an overnight retreat with the Foundation Board. We both knew what that meant. It was perfect timing. I wouldn't have to face her one last time. "Have a good weekend," she said casually as she packed her overnight bag. I noticed she was taking her most expensive lingerie items she hadn't worn for me in over a year. "You too," I replied, wondering if these would be our last words to each other. After she left, I completed my final preparations. I placed signed divorce papers on her vanity, along with a letter explaining my decision. I left my wedding ring beside them. I took only what was irreplaceable family photos, my father's watch, my medical journals, and enough clothes to start. Overdot as I stood in our bedroom one last time, I felt strangely calm. The pain was still there, but now it was accompanied by something else. Resolved. My phone buzzed with a text from the car service. It was time. I took one final look around the home we built together, then closed the door on that chapter of my life. The flight to Seattle was quiet. I watched Boston disappear beneath the clouds, knowing that by the time Olivia returned from her retreat, I would be gone. No dramatic confrontation, no tearful goodbye. Just absence where once there had been loved on. My new apartment was sparse. but had spectacular views of the water. Standing at the window that first night, watching ferries cross the Sound under a sky full of stars, I realized I had no regrets. Olivia had taught me that feelings didn't matter, but she was wrong. They mattered enough for me to walk away. I didn't hear from Olivia for 48 hours after my departure. Then, at 3 a.m. Seattle time, my phone exploded with notifications. 15 missed calls, 23 text messages, 5 voicemails, each more frantic than the last. "Ryan, where are you? Call me immediately. This isn't funny. Come home now. You can't just leave. Do you know how this makes me look? The Carmichael Gala is tomorrow. Everyone will notice if you're not there. Ryan, please. We can talk about this. Whatever you want." That last one almost made me laugh. Now, she wanted to talk? Now my feelings mattered? I silenced my phone and went back to sleep in my new apartment, with the sound of rain against the windows providing a peaceful soundtrack. The next morning, I blocked her number and emailed my attorney to handle all communication going forward. I had a new life to build, and I couldn't do that with Olivia's voice in my ear, trying to pull me back into her orbit. Seattle Grace Hospital welcomed me with open arms. The trauma department needed leadership, and I threw myself into the work with renewed passion. Without the weight of my failing marriage, I rediscovered why I'd become a surgeon in the first place: to heal, to save, to make a difference. My colleagues were different here. Less concerned with status, more focused on collaboration. No one cared what fundraisers I attended or which social circles I moved in. They cared about my skills in the operating room and my commitment to patients. It was during my 3rd week that I met Mia. She was a trauma nurse with quick hands and quicker wit. Her dark hair always pulled back in a practical ponytail, her brown eyes warm but unflinching in crisis. We worked a 12-hour shift together, saving a family of 4 after a terrible car accident. When it was over, she handed me a coffee. "You look like you need this more than I do, Dr. Harrison." "Ryan," I corrected her, accepting the cup gratefully. "And thank you. Great work in there." She shrugged, but I could see the pride in her eyes. Just doing my job. "Unlike some of the surgeons we get, you actually listen to your nurses." "Only a fool ignores the people who keep his patients alive," I replied. She smiled, then a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "You're not from around here, are you? That obvious? Boston accent gives you away. Plus, you're too formal. Seattle. Folks are more ... relaxed." We talked for 20 minutes in the hospital cafeteria. Nothing profound, just easy conversation about the city, the best hiking trails, where to find decent coffee. It was the first normal interaction I'd had with a woman in months, with no undercurrents of betrayal or manipulation. Meanwhile, back in Boston, my absence was creating the exact storm I'd anticipated. James called to tell me that rumors were swirling through the hospital corridors. Olivia had apparently told everyone I was on an emergency sabbatical for health reasons, but that story collapsed when the hospital administration confirmed my resignation. "She's losing it, man," James said. "Showed up at the Carmichael Gala alone, telling everyone you were on a humanitarian mission. Then Dr. Carmichael mentioned your resignation, and she nearly fainted." I felt a twinge of something, not quite sympathy, but acknowledgement of her pain. How's she handling it? Not well. Especially since someone leaked that she's been seeing Nathan Whitman. The society crowd is not kind to cheaters, especially when the wrong spouse is a respected surgeon who saves children's lives. I hadn't planned on Olivia's affair becoming public knowledge, but I wasn't surprised. Boston's medical social circle thrived on gossip, and a scandal this juicy wouldn't stay private for long. Over the following weeks, I established a routine in Seattle. Work, exploring the city, occasional hikes in the surrounding mountains. I rented a small sailboat one weekend and spent hours on the water, feeling the kind of peace I hadn't experienced in years. Mia and I developed a friendship that gradually evolved into coffee after shifts, then dinner discussions about cases, then weekend explorations of the city. She was nothing like Olivia straightforward, where my ex had been calculating, genuine, where Olivia had been performative. "You never talk about your ex-wife," Mia observed one evening as we walked along the waterfront. "Not much to say," I replied, watching a ferry glide across the darkening water. "There's always something to say about the person who broke your heart," she said quietly. "But I get it. Some wounds need time." I looked at her, then really looked at her. Her compassion wasn't a social tool or a means to an end. It was simply who she was. "Maybe someday," I said, "but not today. Today, I'd rather hear about your terrible first date with the radiologist." She laughed and obliged, and I realized I was healing slowly, imperfectly, but healing nonetheless. 6 months after leaving Boston, my divorce was finalized. I signed the papers in my attorney's Seattle office, feeling neither triumph nor sadness, just closure. Olivia had fought it initially, then shifted to demanding an excessive settlement, before finally accepting the equitable terms my lawyer had proposed. According to my attorney, her social standing in Boston had collapsed spectacularly. "Your ex-wife's relationship with Mr. Whitman ended rather publicly," he informed me. "Apparently, he moved on to another board member's wife. These foundation types aren't known for their loyalty." I nodded, unsurprised. Nathan had never wanted Olivia. He'd wanted the challenge of conquering a successful surgeon's wife. Once that thrill faded, so did his interest. I was 3 months into a relationship with Mia by then. We'd taken things slowly, both aware of the shadows my past cast. She never pushed, never demanded, just offered steady companionship that gradually blossomed into something deeper. Her apartment was filled with plants and books rather than designer furniture, and her idea of a perfect evening involved homemade pasta and board games rather than charity galas. "You smile more now," she observed one night as we prepared dinner together in my apartment. "When we first met, you smiled with your mouth, but not your eyes." I pulled her close, breathing in the lavender scent of her hair. "I have reasons to now." The call came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was reviewing charts between surgeries when my assistant mentioned a visitor from Boston was insisting on seeing me. "Did they give a name?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. "Olivia Harrison," she replied. "She says she's your wife." "Ex-wife," I corrected. "Tell her I'm in surgery." But Olivia had always been persistent. When I emerged from my actual surgery 3 hours later, she was still there, sitting in the waiting area. She stood when she saw me, and for a moment, I was struck by how different she looked. The perfectly coiffed auburn hair was still there, but her face seemed thinner, her designer outfit somehow less impressive in the practical setting of a Seattle hospital. "Ryan," she said, her voice carrying that familiar cultured tone. Finally, I led her to a private consultation room, maintaining professional distance. "Why are you here, Olivia?" "I had to see you." She reached for my hand across the table. I moved it away. "Things have been difficult since you left." "I imagine they have." "Nathan and I are over," she continued, as if this news should matter to me. "It was a mistake. I see that now." I studied her face, those emerald eyes that once held my entire world. "Is that why you're here? To tell me your affair didn't work out?" "I'm here because I want another chance." Her voice cracked slightly, the first genuine emotion I'd heard from her in years. "We built a life together, Ryan, a good life. We can rebuild it." "The life we built was a facade," I replied calmly. "You made that very clear when you told me feelings don't matter." She flinched. I was wrong to say that. I was confused, selfish. But people make mistakes. It wasn't a mistake, Olivia. It was a revelation of character. I stood up, suddenly tired of the conversation. You showed me who you really are. I believe you did me a favor. Tears welled in her eyes, whether genuine or tactical, I couldn't tell anymore. The foundation board has practically ostracized me. My friends won't return my calls. Do you have any idea what it's like to lose everything overnight? Actually, I do. I experienced it the moment I read those messages on your phone. Her composure cracked further. I've changed, Ryan. I've had time to think about what matters. About what? I threw away. What matters to you is your social position. Your image. That's why you're here. Not because you miss me, but because your life is harder without me. That's not fair, she whispered. Neither was your indifference to my pain. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia. Surgery went well. Patient. Stable. Still on for dinner tonight? I smiled at the message, and Olivia noticed. You've met someone, she said flatly. I have. Is it serious? I considered the question. It's real. That's what matters. Olivia stood, gathering her designer purse with trembling hands. I flew across the country to fight for our marriage, and you've already replaced me. No, Olivia. You flew across the country because your carefully constructed world fell apart without me in it. There's a difference. As I walked her to the hospital exit, she made one final attempt. We had 15 years together, Ryan. Does that mean nothing to you? I stopped and faced her. It meant everything to me. That's the difference between us. When you said feelings don't matter, you were speaking your truth. I'm living mine by recognizing that they do. I watched her walk away, her stiletto heels clicking against the hospital floor, a sound so out of place in my new world. There was no satisfaction in her pain, no vindication in her regret. Just the quiet certainty that I'd made the right choice. That evening, as Mia and I sat on my balcony watching the sunset over Puget Sound, I finally told her the full story of my marriage and its end. She came all this way to get you back, Mia said thoughtfully. That must have been difficult to face. Not as difficult as I expected, I admitted. 6 months ago, I might have wavered. Today, I just felt free. Mia squeezed my hand. What was different? I looked at her, this woman who had never treated emotions as inconvenient obstacles, who valued authenticity over appearances, and the answer was clear. I learned that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Olivia showed me that feelings didn't matter to her. You show me every day that they do. The Seattle rain began to fall softly around us, but we stayed outside, protected by the overhang, watching the water and planning a future where feelings mattered above all else.